All right, we are live. Welcome to Forward Future Live. It is Friday, October 31st, 2025, and it is Halloween. Yes, Nick,
Is it?
fantastic outfit.
Thank you, sir.
I went with the simple skeleton onesie and could not be happier about it because I like to be comfortable.
I think you pull it off great. It fits your vibe.
Thank you,
You
thank
know,
you.
I was doing my pre-show routine, ended up in the bathroom and realized that this is a very hard ensemble to deal with in the restroom. And so, you know, there were some challenges, but we're here now. We made it. We're live. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so we have an absolutely incredible lineup. Obviously, with me today, co-hosting Nick Wentz, partner at Ford Future, and today we have three incredible guests: Lynn Chow, CEO and co-founder of Fireworks AI, fresh off a massive funding round to talk all about scaling AI inference and the shift from training to inference infrastructure. We have Raza Martin, CEO and co-founder of Hux, here to talk about reimagining the user experience for a voice-first world. One of the leads on the Notebook LM Google project, product, I should say. And then last, Anton, Oika, co-founder and CEO of Lovable, and here to talk about the future of software creation. So I think, Nick, if you're okay with it, we'll do things a little different. We're going to save news, and we should bring our first guest on right away.
Let's jump into
Lynn
it.
Chow, welcome to the show. Oh, I think you're muted. Give us one sec. There we
There we
Hi.
go.
go. Hey, Lynn. Good to have you.
Hi. Thanks for
Good
having
to
me.
good to have you. So I met you earlier this week. I'm super excited to talk to you. I have heard a lot about Fireworks AI even before meeting you. So let's go through the basics. What is Fireworks AI and how did you start it?
We are a AI inference cloud where we we are not just one size fits all inference. We tailor our inference engine as well as a model specifically for a application. So you can think about us as an application tuned inference. And our mission as a company is called artificial autonomous intelligence. By that, it is completely in a very different position from the frontier labs, as in the frontier labs are laser focused on AGI, where this is one model that solve all the problems in the best way as a utility. But we believe a model should be a live being. Model should continuously adapt, adjust, tailor towards the application usage pattern. And then it's not an appliance where you buy once and use that for 10 years and upgrade. You should buy the model once and then model just continues learn and adapt in an automated way towards the application you're building. So that's artificial autonomous intelligence we're building. And we are a AI cloud, AI influence cloud. We run on top of many different kind of hardware. And we have a virtual fleet that can be highly scalable to sustain your growing workloads.
And so I think a lot of the discussion today is around, is there going to be this omni model world where one model rules them all? The model is massive and can handle every use case versus a lot more specialized, verticalized models for specific use cases, obviously much more efficient. What's your take on that and why?
I view the world as a gigantic collection of data. And you can think about part of those data goes into the model. A model is a representation of its training data. In all the frontier labs, the training data comes from public accessible internet and data labeled by labeling companies. But I will argue that's only 20% of the world's data. 80% of the world's data lies in locked inside application. Within application, there's a very rich data describing user preferences, user interaction, user engagement, workflow patterns, and all this. And the volume extremely high. And the interesting thing is application companies, they have been very good at leveraging those data to historically to make the product continuously better and better through a layer called product analytics. But leveraging this data for GenAI application is a new space. And that space doesn't have much tooling available. There's not much principles available, best practices available. I would say it's completely vacuum right now. And that's a space we want to provide a lot of tools to make we call it this application adaptation of the model very easy to use without a lot of you have to hire a lot of people with deep expertise. You have to kind of managing a large fleet with a flexible way. You have to figure out how to optimize, make the model quality better, make model faster, and make the model lower cost. You don't need to worry about any of those. And we provide the fundamental infrastructure for you, where as easy as you plug in the data, it should just automatically work. So that's the direction we're heading towards. The good news is we recently raised Series C.
Yeah, congrats,
Yeah,
congrats. How much
congrats.
did you raise? Let's hear it.
Yeah, so we raised 250 mil. Our valuation goes up to 4 billion. That's a full reflection of we made big milestones towards our mission, towards artificial autonomous intelligence. Thanks for all our customers and partners, deep trust in Fireworks to build on top of us. We have a large number of AI native startups and digital native companies that they are extremely innovative, uh, part of the joy, deep joy of building this company is I got to work with the best minds across the industry. They're fearless. They're reimagining what does new set of user experience, complete disruptive set of new user experience look like? And they're defining the frontier of the industry. They are reshaping our day-to-day interaction with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So, and that requires a lot of creativity. And GenAI and tech is a tool to unlock that creativity. And from there, we can dive a lot more into those use cases that are extremely creative.
Yeah,
Um,
Lynn,
yeah,
be,
so
before
that's
we
kind of, go
yeah,
ahead.
before we jump into those use cases, which we do want to hear about, I want to talk about this fundraising. So it was co-led by Lightspeed and Index Ventures. Is that right? Was there a moment of celebration? How did the team celebrate, or is it just business as usual, back to work?
We did celebrate. I sent out a announcement across the company, and it is a deep reflection of the hard work done by the whole entire team, every single one of them. I'm extremely proud of them. With that
So
said,
no trips to Hawaii yet. That will come at the next fundraising.
so our celebration is we're gonna upgrade our coffee machine.
Amazing. You're
I, I love that. Lynn, I want to go back to something you said. So you said like traditionally a model gets deployed and a company is running inference on it and it's really static for 10 years and then it gets retired, you upgrade the model. But you are doing something, Fireworks is doing something completely different where you're evolving the model. The model is learning constantly. Can you talk about what that actually looks like in practice?
Absolutely. So it starts with your same as product analytics workflow. It starts with your product tracing data. From the product tracing data, you can first of all you we are there's a new set of technology that basically very much similar to how we as a human being learning knowledge. We learn knowledge, our education or our growth from childhood and into hey, develop into a career has a lot of learning, and that learning um, big part of the learning is through reward of towards our behavior. It will be, hey, if we do something really good, we get some positive reward.
Yep.
we score really good in test, or we get kudos and we get a lot of acknowledgement from peers and so on. If we do something not that good, then we get negative rewards, we get feedbacks, we get dinged on certain areas and so on. So those kind of continuous reward is forming, shaping us and for us to grow. Similarly, for the models, same idea. You can imagine a model, a base model has raw intelligence. And that raw intelligence is not going to change over time. It's like our IQ. It's not going to change.
Like the weights
But
in the model,
the weights of the
they're not
model.
changing. Got it. Okay.
There is when the model gets trained and released from Frontier Labs, it's the baseline model
Yeah.
that has a raw intelligence. But that's not the end of the model intelligence. There is a lot more for the model to focus on. So think about the initial model. They're the generalists. They can do many things, but they may not be really, really good at specific things. So that's where like we train human domain specialists, in the model needs to be trained further to specialize in solve certain problems much, much deeper. I still kind of it's similar to like, hey, if you see dentists, there's so many different kind of dentists, right? So focus on specific part of the tooth. So that's very interesting. But it takes many, many years to get there. Similar for the models, it doesn't need to take many years. It just take one day, for example, a couple hours. You can actually specialize the model, let the model explore a range of options and tell the model, hey, you're doing well here and you're not doing really well there. So over time, we create a path to get the model to a really good point. So that technology heavily anchor on, first of all, there's a way to tell the model what are you doing. It's called reward. And that reward is like writing code. It can be as simple as writing code, and you just get the model result, and then you have a way to tell the model in a simple, like the simplest reward or binary reward, good, bad, 0, 1. And you can tell model, hey, I think I have a logic to judge your result, and a very important um, fact here is judging result is much, much easier than generate the best result. So here's the asymmetry here. So we're leveraging that. And so basically, you can write a very good judge. And the simplest way you write in code, so it's very, very friendly for software engineer to be able to learn how to teach the model to do well. But there are many other ways of judging the model. It can be you can integrate with your production. Um, and it's called rollout. One version of the model from the baseline is called one rollout, along with many other environments where you run the model together. For example, a model doesn't just answer the question itself. It need to call out tools, various different tools to go reach out to other knowledge base and then assemble the result. So all together, it's called a environment, a particular version of the model along with the surrounding systems to interact with is called that snapshot is called one environment. So once it can be as complex as you integrate with your enterprise internal environment, other APIs, other databases, other bespoke business logic, and then generate a reward.
And
And then the model will continuously learn towards the direction you want. And it's very fun to see the quality metrics, loss functions go over time. And then at a certain point in time, it will collapse. It will go down because, hey, the model couldn't just learn more and it just kind of go worse. And then you pick the right snapshot of a particular model version, particular rollout, and say, hey, this is the one I want, and then try that in production.
and so like
Go ahead, Matt.
okay, are you providing the tools to allow these models to continuously learn, or are you handling that yourself for your clients?
That's a really good question. So there's two kind of user UX design here. Um, we want to help application developers who doesn't have time to learn all these like deep AI tags and all the nitty-gritty details, how to tune the model and so
Yeah.
on. I want to really build a simple tool chain for them. But at the same time, as any technology adoption curve, the early adopters are all um, people with hacker mindset. They learn a lot about technology, or they themselves already have deep understanding of AI. So they actually want to have a lot of norms to tune, and they will not be happy with pre-packaged, very simple API. So this is kind of a very typical like design dilemma is do you design for the expert or do you design for a broader audience?
Yeah.
Um, and we have handled that before at Meta, for example. The way to think about it is we have consumable, composable API at a much lower level, so the expert can be satisfied by tuning many various different things, and then we layer a simpler abstraction on top of that to satisfy the broader audience. So that's kind of the this is still ongoing feedback loop we ourselves want to have with our customer, and we want to continue to learn there as well. So big news, we're going to launch our reinforcement fine-tuning product preview, um, limited preview next week,
When can we expect that?
Next week.
early next week.
Early next week.
So
And
we put a lot of effort, a lot of love into this product. So once it's launched, we will love to learn from people's how they use us and what are things they see working well, and any feedback, we'll love it.
So Lynn,
awesome.
you recently announced a partnership with AMD, and I just want to talk about this a little bit, how this partnership came about, what's the intent behind it? Is it simply diversification is best for the customer, lower cost of inference? Are there other reasons at play? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Right. This actually this goes back to our PyTorch days. We are a very big founding team, seven of us. Many of us came from work at Meta for a long time, between 7 to 10 years. In the last 5 years, we're kind of building up AI infrastructure from ground up at Meta for both training and inference. I was head of PyTorch for 5 years as well. The position, this is just a continuation of how we think about what is best to developers. The best to developers is to give them easy access to the best tools in whatever it is. Recently, the challenge is there are a few challenges. One is model depreciation cannot be faster. Um, there are many new models that is launched, whether it's closed model or open model. Open model is much more active. Within a month, we have seen like 3 to 4 state-of-art open model get released, and we're very busy enabling that. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is hardware depreciation. In the past, I think before 2022, usually we think about every 3 years that there's new hardware SKU. That's a normal way to think about hardware evolution. But this year alone, there are 3 SKUs we onboarded from NVIDIA itself. For example, we onboarded H200 and B200. We are already working on B300 GBs. So this is just from one. Obviously, NVIDIA is the biggest hardware provider, right? So there are many other hardware providers, including AMD. AMD is kind of closest in terms of the hardware characteristics. There are many ASIC providers as well. So eventually, we want to make sure our developers they get access to the best options, and we provide accessibility to all possible options they would like to pick and choose from. And catching up with this fast hardware evolution pace is really, really hard. And that's where we as the inference tier and general kind of inference AI inference cloud, we would like to deeply integrate with potential options and just make it available to our developers.
I want to ask about open versus closed source. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Fireworks is focusing on serving open source models. It seems like in the US, the frontier labs are really having all of their frontier, their kind of top of the line models be closed source, including your alma mater Meta. It seems they're heading that way, although it's not confirmed. But then maybe kind of the less capable models under that, they're going to open source. And then we have, China, which is releasing incredible open source frontier models. What are your thoughts on that strategy? Do you see yourself ever serving some of the frontier closed source models, or are you focused on the lower cost, higher efficiency open source models?
Right. We would love to serve all the best of the best models
Sure.
on
Okay.
our
I guess
on
that
our
was an
platform.
obvious answer there. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So, but in my mind, I don't feel it's about a race between open and closed. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm very pro open source, from our past history working on PyTorch. But at the same time, if you look at how the model quality is evolving, you can see, again, it goes back to the model depreciation cannot be faster. Um, a good model, like top the tier model, will stay on the top of the leaderboard, number one position for between a couple of weeks or maximum a
That's
month.
insane.
That's
Yeah, that is
insane,
insane.
right?
It's
But
so
Crazy.
crazy to think about.
it is crazy because you think about how much R&D investment those companies pour into creating one model, top the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And then quickly someone else is on top it. So that is crazy. Another interesting phenomenon is you see this oscillation across various different model providers. Doesn't matter if it closed or open. This oscillation is a sign of convergence, right?
Oscillation in what sense? What are they oscillating on?
Oscillation in terms of the quality, right?
So like they release one model super high quality, then the next maybe like version bump is not as big of a jump. Is that what you mean?
No, what I mean is across different model provider, whether they're closed model provider or open model provider, the quality of their relative position on top, like famous, like well-established leaderboard, their position is oscillating.
Got
Mm.
it. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
And then and that to me, that's just a reflection of convergence of model quality.
Mm.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
But there's a fundamental reason behind that, and and that reason is it's not a secret. Um, a model quality is a reflection of two things fundamentally. One is data, the other is people. In terms of data, the every almost like all model providers, they are calling the same internet. It's the same set of public information. They are going to pretty much the same labeling company to provide a human label data. The quality variation will not be um, very big there. The second factor is people, the researchers. They may have a very unique way to train model, but as we're seeing on the news, researchers are constantly moving around, and there's just no like people is everywhere, and there's no, I would say, particular like unique way of doing the pre-training. And with that said, I'm pretty sure there are many labs are thinking about the new model architecture. Transformer is way overdue to be disrupted, but still it's there, right? So I'm really looking forward to a fundamental um, like revolution of the model architecture to lead us to the next step. But so far, the model architecture is more or less the same. So that's a fundamental reason why the model quality is converging because like everyone is kind of pretty much doing similar th kind of things. So going back to the whole entire world's data, right? So again, I think the data going to model itself is a small fraction of the data in the world. There's a large fraction of the data that is locked inside application, not reachable by the frontier labs, the labs producing models, and we are leaving those data on the table. The companies owning those data are leaving a lot of potential in the business transformation and their moat on the table. So that's where kind of we are extremely passionate about activate this data and use this data to help the model continues to learn, to be smarter, to be faster, to be more cost efficient. So
Yeah.
you may be curious to learn to be smarter makes sense. How do you learn to be faster and more cost efficient? It's actually totally possible. So our learning process is three-dimensional across quality, speed, and cost.
Yeah, I mean,
So
usually you're
can
thinking like you get two of those options, right? It's like choose, here's three options, speed, quality, cost, choose two, but you're saying it's possible to optimize for all three.
Absolutely, yes.
And
yeah.
sorry, Nick, go ahead, please.
Well, yeah, just continuing down this line of competition, there's a lot of increasingly increasingly so. There's more and more competition at the infrastructure layer. It seems like you have GPUs, hyperscalers, even kind of these self-hosted stacks. For the inference platforms and providers, what do you view as the competitive advantage? How do you separate yourselves from others? Is it the activation of that data that you were talking about? Is that one of the keys? What else comes to mind?
Yeah, so how we separate out from others is how exactly many newer applications separate out from their cohort. So we have so many big like state-of-art companies using us, whether they are like startup, but this startup no longer small. They within a couple of years they become an industry leader. Actually, there are many of them running on top of us, and also digital native. They are kind of completely embracing Gen AI and transform and want to remain the leader position. So we observe one common pattern. That common pattern is they do not consider model as a commodity, as a utility, as an appliance.
Hmm.
You just use it and use all what model can provide as is. They never stay there. They do not want to be an API wrapper. Instead, they are doing deep product model co-design. By product model co-design, they deeply understand the data distribution problem I just shared with you. They deeply understand their product and the model they are using fundamentally are misaligned because these two are being built by two different companies. They're by design, there's no way product and the model can be fully aligned
Hmm.
perfectly. So that's why they are doing product model co-design. They are viewing model as a critical asset of their product. Initially, the design process is they're hugging their product design around the model capability, extract most amount out of the model, and then they continue to evolve their product. And then you see kind of the product model start to drift, and they figure out a way to bring the model continuously when the product is evolving and keep this going, right? So those companies are extremely successful. They differentiate themselves from others. However, doing that is an extremely complex process. They need to invest a lot of resource, having the right talent, there's no such kind of tool chain infrastructure available to help them. And it's a very slow process. We would like to make this really simple for all developers to be able to have their own model, adapting constantly towards their product, drive their product to be better, much better user engagement, deliver more data, make the model more intelligent, better product, and so on. So they can still start to create this virtual cycle. So that's fundamentally our design philosophy. I think it's completely different from either one model fits all or one infrastructure fits all philosophy.
Yeah.
We specialize in everyone should have full control of your application specific model that is alive, that will continuously learn automatically along with your product.
Well, Lynn, I appreciate your approach. I know you have a heart out, so we're going to let you go. I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on the fundraise. Congratulations on the new coffee machine, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you, Lynn.
So
Have a good
yeah,
day.
that was really cool to see that. Yeah, it's interesting to see how different information providers think about like open source versus closed source, how these models are going to adapt to the actual application layer. That was fascinating.
Yeah, I'm realizing we need to get a proponent of the single model future because we've
Well,
talked to a lot of people
yeah.
who believe it's not that.
Right, right. I keep
Yeah,
saying like, hey, a lot of people in the industry, and then we always have the kind of contrary to that.
yeah,
But it was, I believe, Noam Brown who said, no, it's going to be an omni-model future. Noam Brown from OpenAI.
yeah.
So, um, all right, hey, that was awesome. Let's do some news.
Let's do some news. Alex, if you could pull up my screen. All right. So out of Anthropic, I think this came out yesterday, 2 days ago. New Anthropic research, signs of introspection in LLMs. So can language models recognize their own internal thoughts, or do they just make up plausible answers when asked about them? We found evidence for genuine, though limited, introspective capabilities in Claude. I know you've done some research on this, Matt. What's your POV on this?
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. First, Anthropic continues to just put out incredibly fascinating papers. I'm most likely going to make a full video just about this. Um, it's like very much Anthropic, right? They put out a lot of research on model safety, model alignment, and also like models being alive. I don't know how else to put it, but
Yep.
this is kind of another step in that direction where it really does seem if a model can have introspection, can recognize its own internal thoughts, is that just like one step towards really admitting that these models are alive in some way? I'm not stating my opinion. I'm just kind of questioning what Anthropic is putting out. And so really, if they can recognize their own thoughts, if they can deceive, if like these are all very human-like characteristics. So
Yeah.
I love the thread of research that they continue to put out.
It is fascinating. And I do think a lot of this comes down to safety, right? Even our conversation with Paul Smith at Dreamforce, the chief commercial officer at Anthropic,
Yep.
he was talking about their efforts around safety and trust being a competitive advantage as they move into the enterprise. Well, they've already moved into the enterprise, but as they continue to focus on it, right? And so this kind of research just helps support it and helps create that foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really like this paper. And it's interesting because you have almost like the two schools of thought. You have Anthropic, which I believe, and I couldn't find it right before we went live, but there was, I believe, one of the founders said we need to start giving credence to the fact that these models might be alive and we need to give them personhood. Uh, and then you have kind of the flip side from OpenAI and what they're saying, which is no, these are kind of next token predictors, and that is intelligence in itself. But Sam Altman has pretty explicitly said he does not believe these models are alive in any sense of the word. It's just so interesting. I honestly don't know where I fall. I probably fall somewhere in the middle. If prediction is enough for intelligence, is intelligence a soul? I don't know. Like, what do you think, Nick?
It seems like a gross simplification, just being able to predict the next word doesn't signify any kind of understanding of your surroundings other than the most probable next word. I think it has to be more complex.
But then, like, how many of these papers need to come out pointing out these little nuances in the way the models work that, again, increasingly seem human-like before we say, oh, okay, maybe they are human. And um, Jonah from our team kind of pointed out a lot of similarities to how humans think about animals, right? And so like if you think about an ant, does
Right.
an ant have consciousness? I don't know. It basically just reacts to chemicals and sends around it, and then okay, like let's move up the food chain. Like how about a dog? Does a dog have consciousness? I would say yeah, it definitely does. And then like where's that line? Where's that delineation? Like
Yeah.
what is it? Is it just what humans decide? Like, oh, I think that animal it has consciousness, or no, I think that one does not.
I feel like there's nothing more human than trying to humanize things that aren't human. Like, oh, that has a human
Yeah, yeah.
characteristic. I read this book years ago called "Are We Smart Enough to Know How Smart Animals Are?" Francis DeWall, I think, is the author. Kind of a dry book, but pretty interesting, pretty insightful. There's so much we don't understand about animals, and the things that we do understand about them are the most human uh, elements of them. And I think that's just how we view the world, like the lens of which we view and assess intelligence through.
Yeah. And then you look at certain animals that I guess are put up on a pedestal in terms of intelligence. So you think about dolphins, for example.
Pigs.
Uh,
Yep.
right. And these are incredibly intelligent animals. And again, I'm saying intelligent, and then you have, or at least I do, a certain feeling towards them because they are so intelligent. Um, uh, like octopus, same thing. Like they are incredibly intelligent. And if you didn't know that, you would just look at them as like a little, slimy thing. But no, they are extremely intelligent. And so all of a sudden you start to look at them differently. So intelligence alone may be enough to change our perception of it. And if that's the case, then let's tie it back to AI. These models are incredibly intelligent, but maybe not in the ways we would expect. It's just such
Yeah.
a hairy idea to think through.
Totally. Well, excited to hear more of this research. It sounds like the model is only getting it right about 20% of the time still. So it's a very imperfect experiment here,
Sure.
but it's much more than it was previously. By the way, I don't think we broke down exactly what's happening here. So the way that I understand this is most early experiments, you're just asking AI questions like, what are you thinking about right now? Or how do you view this situation? And then you just look at the text answer or the text response at face value. But this new approach, instead of trusting what the model says, you directly change its neurons or activations in this case, right? And so in a controlled way, you're flipping these switches, and then you're seeing if the model actually recognizes that you're making those changes. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I need to read. I only scanned over the paper, so I think that sounds about right. But I will get back to you once I read the full thing.
Can't wait to see the video.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next story. Oh, yes, of
Oh,
course.
speaking of intelligence and consciousness, yeah.
We had to talk about 3i Atlas, of course.
Yeah, and by
Um,
the way, I didn't know about this. Really, I
I,
like just heard a couple things here and there, but you were like, wait, you don't know what's going on. All right, so please explain it.
yeah, I love this stuff. So we're gonna touch on the speculative news first. So there was speculation that it was going to hit Earth. First of all, um, there were
Yeah,
people
we're
saying
safe
that
though, right?
we're safe as of now.
Okay.
Yes. No comet-like features. Uh, it was somehow distinguished from other comets, and it could be an alien spacecraft. So these were all the considerations. Now, all of this has been debunked, unfortunately, and it turns out just to be a normal comet. But what is fascinating is it's one of three objects that has ever entered our solar system and been identified. One of three.
Wow.
And supposedly, it was created before our sun was formed.
Absolutely
Does
wild.
that blow
And
your mind? It blows
it,
my
it
mind.
really does. Like, just I guess it gives you perspective on the age of the universe, and obviously it's just hard for humans to really conceptualize what that actually is. So it's
Yeah,
it's good to have that reference point. And also it just looks cool. It
it
just
does. It does look
it just
cool.
looks really cool.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Brian Cox, famous astrophysicist, says just to be clear, given recent drivel online, Comet 3i Atlas is a comet made of carbon dioxide and water ices and bits of other stuff. It is entirely natural in origin.
All right. Well,
Very sad.
No aliens today yet.
No aliens today. Um, Alex is our next guest here.
Yeah, Raza's here. I think, yep, I see her. We'll bring her on in a minute. Maybe we'll do one more story.
Yeah, let's just talk about this AI bubble. We touched on this last week just a little bit, but we have Jensen, saying, "I don't think we're gonna have an AI
Just
bubble."
Jensen, like Madonna, just a
Prince.
single name.
Yeah,
Doesn't need anything else. Yeah, I think he has
exactly.
reached that status for sure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
like there's so much AI bubble talk, it's insane. And then I don't know if we should maybe we'll save getting into the earnings calls from this week, but it's very reflective of the kind of are we in an AI bubble or not? But yeah, Jensen certainly doesn't think so. I don't think there's a world in which Jensen would say we're in one, but all I know is we cannot get enough inference, we cannot get enough compute.
No dark GPUs.
Right. I think that Gavin Baker said that this week, where it was like, okay, if you look back to the dot-com bubble, a lot of the fiber optic cable that was laid to transmit the internet, like a huge percentage of it was just unused, right? They had this massive infrastructure investment to lay fiber optic cable, and then there was no internet usage of it. And then like fast forward to today, and every single GPU that gets produced gets used instantly. Just the second it goes online, it is fully utilized. And there's a lot of other signals to show that we're not quite in a bubble. Although, like, I understand that sentiment, but I just think there are some parallels to the dot-com bubble, but many more that kind of conflict with those initial signals from the dot-com bubble.
Yeah. Look, I think we need to take Jensen's word here with a grain of salt. If you understand a person's incentives and you can predict their behavior. But that being said, to your point about .com, I think it's very different. If you look at the incumbents in the space, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, Intel, Amazon, like these are very healthy business. And yes, there's speculation about their AI businesses potentially, but they are very healthy balance sheets. And so there is a strong foundation, right? Whereas the .com, it was all speculation.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think the part that makes me nervous is there's the Mag 7 that seems like it is holding up the economy. Like these
yeah,
seven companies that are a huge percentage of the GDP of the United States, specifically Nvidia. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was like mid single digit percentage of our total GDP as a country is just Nvidia. Um,
sure.
I
Glad
mean,
they're on our side,
yeah. So Alex just said it's like 12% now. So it's just wild to think about the power that these companies have, and like if these seven companies just continue to grow and outpace the growth of, I would say, like non-AI companies, what is that going to look like in the future? So that's the part that I'm a little bit nervous about.
Yeah. I just don't think OpenAI is, pets.com.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah,
I
I
think it
know.
might be
Hot
a
take. Yeah.
little bit more valuable than that. Well,
All
why don't
right.
we bring our next guest on?
Let's do it.
So Reza, are you there? All right, so we're gonna bring our next guest on, Reza Martin, co-founder and CEO of Hux, stealth mode AI startup focused on creating personalized AI audio experiences. Very bullish on voice as the interface for artificial intelligence. So excited to bring her on. Reza, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hey, Reza, good to see you again. Okay,
First of all, did we get the name right? Hux?
It is
All right.
hux.com. Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Okay.
Well done,
Hux,
man.
Huxe. Yeah. So Reza, good to see you again. We chatted a few months ago. I am, as you've probably seen on Twitter and during our discussions, extremely bullish on voice as the primary interface for artificial intelligence. But first, before we get into that, just explain what Hux is and a little bit about the founding.
Yeah, thank you. Hux is an app you can download on iOS and on Android, and we refer to it as personalized and proactive audio. And so, based on your interests, your calendar, your email, we tried to flip the script a little bit on AI. So instead of you prompting it, Hux just automatically creates interesting content for you.
So the most, by the way, I didn't know about this term AI UX, which I think is great. But the most egregious example of a poor audio experience might be something like you're on hold or you're talking to a robocaller, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
obviously you're not that, but how do you differentiate between those types of experiences? Why is this proactive? How does that present in someone's day?
Yeah, so the way that I actually think about it is, when you think about stuff like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, I think a lot of our interactions with AI is still one, largely chatbot based,
Yeah.
and two, very much like a user goes first model. Right? So when I go on ChatGPT or Claude, I have to type a question and then it answers, and then we just take turns. And it sounds kind of basic to describe it, but I think for the most part, you can kind of imagine that there is actually sort of the next turn, which is, well, what if AI went first instead? But, not necessarily like, okay, it's going to ask you a question, rather sort of presuming I know enough about you to generate content for you. And so you can think about this different ways. ChatGPT Pulse is a good example where they're generating a feed of cards and still largely text. But the approach we've taken is what if we could generate interesting audio? And we did this mostly because we thought about the perspective of like, this is really going to date me. But when I used to wake up when I was a kid, I would turn the radio on. And I would listen. The only reason I did that was to check if there was a storm and if school was canceled. And I was like,
Now
well,
that you say that, I remember doing the exact same thing.
yeah. And I was like, well, I really loved that. I loved that sort of ritual and that routine. And I was like, whoa, I wonder if we can bring that back, right? Like people are commuting, they're listening to podcasts when they wake up. What if I just created you like a radio station made only for you? And that's really what Hux is.
Yeah, and I think
I
when
love that.
we spoke a few months ago, I was especially excited. I think the use case that stood out to me the most is I am driving a lot during the day. I know if you live in a big city, you don't have a car, maybe that's not as much for you, but even walking around the city, there is this enormous amount of time during the day. Uh, Maybe this is kind of my American brain working here, that I'm not as productive as I'd like to be, right? And so it would be so nice if in the car while I was driving, I was actually able to learn something, accomplish something, delegate tasks to my artificial intelligence, that actually accomplish real world things for me in those moments where I can't actually type into a keyboard. And so it was so fascinating to me when we started connecting and I learned about Hux. And so like paint a picture of what that vision looks like. So right now it's proactive, it's giving you information about your day, but I believe you have a really big vision for what this can become. So please paint a picture.
Yeah, I thank you for asking. And I think there's so much in what you just shared about like your typical day that's actually true across many people. But I think there's also this like other side to this sort of desire to be more productive. And I'll talk about this a little bit, which is I think number one, pretty much anything that's launched today is like competing for your eyeballs. Right. And it's like products are constantly trying to increase the amount of time I'm in front of my computer, which is terrible because I am already in front of my computer like 18 hours a day, right? Whether it's like my computer or my phone, I am on a screen of some sort.
Yep.
And I think more and more people are becoming kind of aware that like, wow, it's kind of crummy. Like I don't love how that feels. And it's like I'm permanently kind of like a snail shape now, which is not great. Like I'd love to be out there walking around, but I don't want
Did
to.
you say snail shape?
Yeah, snail
Yeah.
shape. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
chiropractors are
Yeah,
thriving
I
right
get
now.
it. Totally. I've
If
been
I,
my entire YouTube feed is how to fix your posture right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
I mean, it's true, right? It's like if you want like a one of those careers that are never going away, I guess chiropractor, because
That's
of
it.
the snails. But the truth is just like I think people are also becoming increasingly aware, which is I don't want to be on a screen all day, but I'm
Totally.
not willing to give up my productivity, right? Or this like whatever sort of thing that we feel we get when we're on the screens. And so when we were thinking about it, thought about this sort of radio paradigm, we thought about audio. I was like, we're trending towards a world, I think, where people are going to look for different types of interfaces that fit this sort of requirement, which is I don't want to be on a screen, but I still want to be productive. I still want to feel smart. I still want to feel creative. And I think that is such a like a noble thing to try to help people achieve, which is I want to give you something that's so valuable that helps actually, make your life better and aligns with your broader goal. And I think this other bonus thing, which is I really would like to help people get back into long format content, like totally meaningful, like things that are thought provoking, things that after you hear it or after you consume it, you just feel smarter. And so that's really all we're trying to do with Hux. And I think we're really pulling on that thread just by shipping as quickly as we can and following where our users take us.
So how do you think about the competitive landscape when it comes to Hux? Obviously there's some maybe overlap with ChatGPT's audio features, at least how some people use them, maybe Pulse even to some degree. Yeah, how do you think about the competitive landscape?
Well, I think about it as there's sort of these like big rocks that I think is going to be the next turn of AI, which is, modality is one, which is like, this is the conversation around audio, voice versus just text. The second one is personalization, which is huge, right? I think we talk about contextualization a lot, but I think people nowadays are like, wow, how do I make this thing really personalized, right? It seems to make a really big difference in terms of the quality of the interaction. And then the third thing is proactivity. And so when I think about those three things, and that's squarely what we're trying to attack, um, the way that I think about the competitive landscape is really that I really believe people kind of think about apps as like a one task thing, right? It's like, okay, I use ChatGPT one way, I use Claude another way. And that to me is like one of the most interesting sort of examples, which is like I use both of them because I assign one job each to them. And similarly for like things like Spotify, right? Like I use Spotify for music. I use Facebook to talk to like my grandma. I use Instagram to talk to like my sisters and send memes to them. But every app just does one sort of job. And I think about Hux as being like, if I could do one job particularly well, and I could do this in a way that is like really sticky and retentive for people, then I don't have to worry too much about, what ChatGPT is doing or what anybody else is doing. It's almost like you have to sort of race as quickly as you can on your own track and like discard, whatever else you think other people might be doing, which can sound kind of counterintuitive, but I feel like, hey, you have to have faith that like the way users operate is like they just give one job each to these products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, researching for this show, I stumbled upon your tweet about Facebook, and it really resonated. Really, really resonated. It seems like more and more people have one very sticky use case for Facebook and otherwise do not use it.
Yes.
In your case, you're talking to family, it sounded like. In my case, I'm using Facebook Marketplace, maybe. Yeah.
Yes, that is the job. And it's like really interesting because I will still use Facebook probably like I'd say once every 2 days. And it's literally like the trigger in my mind is I wonder how my grandma's doing. But
Right.
it's like if I want to talk to like my sisters or if I want to send like funny things to my husband, like okay, that's Instagram. Oh, if I want to catch up on tech, that's Twitter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wanna bring it back to your career history a little bit. So this is not your first endeavor with voice. You were on the Notebook LM team at Google. Um, I want to learn just a little bit about what that experience was like, what the kind of idea was initially for Notebook LM, and then when you saw it absolutely catch fire, what was that like?
Yeah.
Well,
Apologies in advance. We're both massive fans, so we're going to geek out about this for a little
oh,
bit.
well, that's super cool. Thank you for asking about it. We started, let's see, I was super early to Google Labs. I was the first PM that Josh hired. And it was so funny because when I joined, I was like, what is this Google Labs thing? And Josh was like, oh, it's going to be AI. I was like, AI. And this was so early. This was like Lambda days. And I just had no idea what AI meant in this context,
What
right?
year was this about?
This is 2022.
Okay, but before ChatGPT?
Oh,
Yeah.
way before ChatGPT. So
Yeah,
ChatGPT
okay.
was like December.
Yep.
And so this was probably in like March or so.
Okay.
And so when I joined, we're talking about launching AI Test Kitchen. And so we launched AI Test Kitchen, which was like Google's first consumer app. And then Josh told me, he was like, we have to build more applied AI things. And your job is to basically create a new AI business for Google. And I was like, all right, sounds good. I'll do it. And he didn't give me
Why
any
not?
other, he didn't give me any other
Is that
instruction.
is that Josh Woodward?
It's Josh Woodward.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I was like, what a cool job. Like I just get to invent something new. I don't know what it is, but we've got this totally new technology. And it wasn't like really good back then, but this is just in terms of the origin of it. I had dropped out of college before I joined Google. So I was a college dropout. And it was always my dream to go back to college. So I had done this like crazy thing where when I finally got the job there and I had this extra money, I went back to school. And so there was this interesting coincidence of forces where I was building a new AI product at Google and I had also gone back to college. And I noticed something when I was using, LLMs. I was like, oh, these things are really good at words. You know what has a lot of words is textbooks, right? All these materials I'm having to consume in the wee hours of the night. I think it would be just really great if I could like talk to my textbook, right? I think it would be so
Wow.
easy.
It's like it seems so obvious now, but I like it wasn't a thing then. It's such a critical insight.
And it was so funny because I didn't want to tell anyone that I had gone back to college. And so I kept making these like roundabout arguments for why talking to your stuff was so interesting. And I was like, as a product manager, this seems really important. People were like, I don't get it. Why would you want to talk to a document? And I'm like, no, I promise you. I promise you it'll be good. And it was really hard in the beginning. I think ChatGPT actually helped quite a bit. The launch of
Yeah.
ChatGPT did. And so Notebook LM blew up in like 2024 with audio overviews, but we had really been cranking on it since 22.
Interesting. What was the moment like was there some kind of event that happened that really started that inflection point for Notebook LM, or was it just like you kind of were just iterating and one day it took off because you had a substantial set of features? What was that?
So I think audio overviews was the biggest spike, but I think throughout, the 2.5 years we were working on it, it was there were several milestones where you could see like things were changing. Like the product was getting better, but also people were becoming increasingly more aware of the need for a product like this. And I think that was one of the things that when we were first building Notebook LM, there were no other products out there, and therefore it was like you couldn't model it after something, right? You couldn't take a similar product or even a similar concept and say, hey, I actually think that this is like a valid use case. Let's build around it. There was no use case for talking to your stuff. And so we had to build everything from scratch. And I always joke with people that like this is why Notebook LM is so ugly because you're just like building it in the dark. You're like, I don't know what it should look like if you're talking to your stuff. Um, but eventually, I think it really started to catch on. And so multiple different small inflection points, and then a really big one with audio.
That's so cool. So if we then let's fast forward again. You start Hux and you're working with voice as an interface. I'm sure you've thought a lot about this, but is there a kind of in the future, do you see the requirement to bring in other senses, vision, listening to audio as part of the Hux experience? And then kind of the natural question after that is, what does the actual hardware look like? Do you foresee it kind of forever being on a phone? I'm sure you're thinking about what potentially OpenAI is building with Johnny Ive. Yeah, like how are all of these different interests coming together?
I think that today I'm trying to utilize the best possible hardware for the job. And one of the things I realized, last year was like a lot of people that I talk to just sort of permanently have an AirPod in. And it's just
That's me,
so,
100%.
wait, it's so fascinating. It's like,
Even when
especially,
it's not on, I just enjoy having that quiet.
it's funny because one of my co-founders actually wears his AirPods Max all day, and he told me they're not even on. He has like that transparency mode or whatever that gives him super hearing. And he's always like, whenever he's far away, he'll turn to me and he's like, I know you're talking about me. I'm like, dude, that's it's just funny. But I think like there is something to be said about how, AirPods, AirPod Maxes, right? They're super acceptable in society, right? For the most
Yeah,
part.
totally.
We don't even see them, we don't even notice them. That I think trying to get that interaction right is really valuable because, up until this time, right? Like we think about that usage as largely like very passive, and like the type of content is fairly known. I'm listening to music or I'm listening to a podcast. That's kind of it. But I think there is something interesting about, well, what if it was like an actual personalized audio stream for you? Like, what does that look like? Does the data change, right? The data we collect, the type of data that we create, does it change? Does it change human behavior? And I think there's like a lot of unknowns there still, just because I think there's not really anything that provokes these types of learnings.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about this a lot lately. It really like the AirPod seems like the most obvious hardware interaction layer between humans and AI to me. I know a lot of people are very bullish on glasses. Personally, I don't wear glasses, so it's hard for me to envision that, although, a lot of people do. But just like as you said, it is socially acceptable to wear your AirPods and just walk around with them, even if you only have one in, but that's all you need. And then I started thinking, okay, well, what if they somehow were able to get a little camera or some kind of additional
Yeah.
sensors? And then all of a sudden, this thing, this tiny little thing in your ear has vision, has audio, can speak with you, can listen to you. It just seems so perfect.
And I think it makes sense, right? Like when I, have my one AirPod in and I'm on a phone call and I'm talking to my mom, like I am just walking around, like talking out loud to myself for the most part is what it looks like. So in real life, it's like the people around you don't know who you're talking to and they largely don't care. And so
Yeah.
I think it actually enables this utility of with the glasses, I feel like there's still a lot of awkwardness of like, oh my gosh, is that person like recording me right now?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
are they
yeah.
looking at? In fact, I was
100%.
on a plane with somebody who was wearing one, and I was like, don't look at me, right? It feels kind of weird. But for AirPods, like you just don't have that. And so I think it's a lot easier to learn what humans really want with this type of technology.
So if I'm a Hux power user, what does my day look like from beginning to end? I wake up with my AirPod Pro in my ear already. How am I communicating with Hux and how does it go
Well,
forward?
well, I'll tell you about the Hux power users. I probably talk to six of them every day, six different ones every day, and it's been really illuminating because first, these people obviously like don't know each other, but they have the exact same use case, and it's
Hmm.
it's been really funny and like really incredible to hear. But the way people describe their power usage of Hux is they say, okay, I wake up, I brush my teeth, and I play Hux while I'm brushing my teeth. And it's the funny part is that everybody says this thing about brushing their teeth. And I'm just like, whoa, this is just like so funny that these people all remember to use this product during this particular morning ritual. And the fascinating part is it reminds me of the radio story, which was like, okay, I wake up, I turn the radio on. And it
Totally.
feels so much like that. And I think it comes down to sort of like this ritual of like I'm trying to prepare myself for the day and I don't want to read my email or open my Slack or check Twitter. I would rather just like get on with this like audio thing first. And so I think, in real life, that's what people are doing today. But then power users also come back multiple other times of the day. They come back during lunch, they come back at the end of the day. And so I think it's almost like if you imagine you're just checking in with like your assistant, right? Or you're checking in with like a thing that you know has like interesting content for you, but only specifically for you that's like hopefully useful. And so that's really what we're observing today is probably like usage 2 to 3 times a day and really largely grounded in your routine.
You can imagine a world where professional use cases come about and then you start blending personal with professional. Like if
Yeah.
it's looking at your corporate calendar, for instance, there could be very relevant information. Maybe it's checking the weather for you where you're flying. All these things are kind of could blend together. How do you think about, we've talked about memory before
Mhm.
with these models and the overlap between, oh, I have all of my personal conversations, but I'm also using ChatGPT for work. How do you think about that in the context of Hux? And maybe it's
I
not relevant today because you don't have the enterprise use cases, but yeah.
No, I really love this question. I think we do have people that add both their work and personal accounts. And it's really funny because in our earliest interviews, one of the things we learned about people when they describe themselves, they usually talk about these two poles, right? They talk about all their work interests as one area, and then they talk about all of their personal interests as another area. And depending on what a person was busy with, for that day, they have a lot of FOMO about the other pole. And it's really interesting to try to capture that tension in one interface because I think, to your point, which is like trying to separate your personal from your work and like all of that data blending together, it doesn't really make a ton of sense, but like that is who a person effectively is. It's just about figuring out which of these things people want to interact with. The funny part is that it's not that complicated when you think about like a day in the life. Like in the morning, I want my work stuff. In the afternoon, I want my personal stuff because that's what I missed out on. And so we do a lot of experimentation around, we have a feed inside of Hux. And so your daily briefing is the first thing that you interact with. It's the first thing you see. And that's very productivity focused. But then the feed underneath it is all these things we think like will be interesting to you on a personal note.
Got
So
it. Yeah.
as you think about the next 6, 12, 18 months for Hux, can you share kind of how you see your vision or your current product evolving towards your vision?
Yeah, I think largely one of the things I've discovered is that maybe this sounds really basic now, but the way we think about AI today is still fully like interactive, right? Which is like that turn taking, question asking, like that's what we use AI for. And then of course like coding, right? But I think for like the consumer use cases, it's still this turn taking thing. Whereas when I see how people are using Hux, we're largely introducing like really passive use cases of AI where I don't really think I've seen anywhere else, right? Which is like I am not doing anything, but the AI is making stuff for me. I'm consuming it. And what it's doing, I think, is it's setting the foundation for a different type of interaction, which
Yeah.
is I didn't ask the question first, like Hux came up with it, but now I want to ask further questions, or I want to ask clarifications, or I want to create new episodes from this. And so the thing that I am most excited about that I think we'll see in the next 6 to 12 months is really what does passive content look like? What does generative content look like? What does personalized content look like? And how do you make all of this proactive? Should you, right? Like what does a person really want in order for it to be meaningful?
And are you seeing different consumption behaviors between different demographics of Hux? Are you seeing more engagement for younger folks, older folks, somewhere in the middle? Like what is that? What does that user look like today? And how are you seeing those differences between demographics?
We do see very different use cases, like sort of buckets of usage. And one of the most fascinating things is that there's definitely like a news junkie persona, which is like, oh, I just want to customize my own news stream, right? Like I'm over all of these news outlets telling me how to think about these things. Just give me the information. And so there's definitely that, which I would say skews towards like older demographics. But then younger demographics actually use it more for sort of like rabbit holing, which is like, oh, I really want to know what's the difference between Christianity and Catholicism. And it's just like the things that you ask, and normally, right, you might ask ChatGPT. What we're finding is that a subset of these queries, I don't actually want to read a thing. I want to go listen to it, and then I want to interact with it. And so I would say these are like two very powerful sort of new things, which is one is like the archetype for like a customizable feed, and one is the archetype for like customizable learning.
So interesting. Reza, how do people try out Hux if they want to give it a try?
Go to hux.com on your phone, and it will automatically give you the link to download on Apple or Android.
Okay, huxe.com. Awesome domain, by the way. 4 letters. That must have been fun to acquire.
Thank you. It was yeah, we have a funny story behind it, but we did have to purchase it off somebody.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. Usually it's like, whatever company name .ai, but you got the .com going hard.
That was our requirement for the name of the company is that we would be able to buy the .com.
Um, Reza, thank you so much for joining us. Go try out Hux, huxe.com. Give it a try. If they want to provide feedback, how do they do that?
When you go on our website, there is a link to our Discord. Please join. It's super lively. People are sharing all kinds of live stations that they're creating. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, and we'll drop that in the chat. And then on Twitter, how do they find you?
Get Hux.
Get Hux. Reza, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me. Take
Keep
care.
up
Thank
the
you,
great
Raza.
work. See ya. All right. Yeah, so I've actually been a test flight user of Hux for a while now. It is really cool. It is really cool, and it's especially cool because you can kind of see the vision of where things are going. Where, as she was describing, it's not just like, okay, I'm ready to think about something. Let me go to ChatGPT and have this like I'm gonna proactively prompt and then it's gonna just reactively respond to me. It is much more so like it knows what I want to hear about.
It's
And I think
anticipating, right? Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's really when AI becomes super, I mean, not that it's not interesting already, but just even more helpful and interesting than it already is.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about
But
Pulse, right? And this to me is OpenAI's um, attempt to get a little bit more proactive because so much of using ChatGPT is like, oh, I have this thing to solve or I have this question to ask. And Pulse allows them to jump in and be a little bit more proactive.
looks like we got some recording. All right.
Or
I don't know if that was actually in the stream or not, but we heard a little recording memo. Let's do some news stories before we have our next guest on.
by the way, Matt, are you when you're using hooks, have you ever run into an audio hallucination?
Um, No, honestly, I feel like hallucinations in general have more or less gone away. I mean,
Less
obviously, like I
common.
go down some crazy rabbit holes with AI, and occasionally it'll just make something up. But the rate of hallucination is so few and far between at this point. I actually don't even think about it all that much, and maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe I need to like remember, oh no, these are fallible, and I
Yeah.
need to actually consider what it's telling me might not be right. And as I'm saying that out loud, it's like, yeah, of course, wait, of course I need to be doing that.
Yeah. Quick PSA, check your ChatGPT outputs. All right.
Check
Let's
your
get into some,
sources.
check your sources, check those citations.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. So fresh off the announcements about their new partnership or kind of the new dynamic of the partnership with Microsoft and the restructuring of their nonprofit, their public benefit corporation. Nick, what do we have?
Yeah. I mean, OpenAI is setting up for an initial public offering. Now, this is setting up to be the largest ever. And I think by a factor of four, let's jump into this Investopedia article. These are the largest IPOs in history.
No, I think it's a factor of 40. So
Oh,
25
it is a factor
billion.
of 40. My
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So absolutely insane to think about because they basically were forced to stay public for or sorry, private for a long time, right? Because of their I'll just say awkward corporate structure and the
Sure.
dynamic between them and Microsoft. They just couldn't go public, right? But now with kind of the finalization of the restructuring, the finalization of the new agreement with Microsoft, they are actually able to. And of course, the same week, literally the day after, rumors already started that they're going to be going and IPOing at $1 trillion. Now we don't know for sure. This is according to Reuters, um, but just absolutely nuts. And what do you think? $1 trillion? Would you not investment advice, but would you buy
Yeah,
the IPO?
I can imagine you can at least three exit, maybe five exit. It seems like a relatively safe bet. It's not
Yeah,
pets.com.
it's not it's not pets.com. That's right. Yeah, so it's a wild story. Let's do one more. And I see Anton is on here. So let's do one more story, then we'll bring him on.
By the way, real quick, why now? Do you think it's just the fact that they have reduced some of the awkwardness of the structure?
That's exactly why. Yeah, for
But
sure.
you have to imagine it also has to do with like interest rates aren't bad. Like let's get good, let's get money while the getting's good. Um, Investor confidence is at an all-time high with AI. Like it seems like a good point in time to IPO.
Yeah, for sure. I do think they probably would have done it a lot earlier. Could they have? They're right. They're just fundraising privately as much money as they could take in. They were taking, and now they can go public and raise from the public and raise a lot more money and be liquid. And yeah, so it's very interesting. Yeah, let's look at this.
All right, so we have the ownership structure here. Microsoft with 27%, OpenAI's nonprofit arm with 26%.
Do you think that's a coincidence, by the way, that the OpenAI nonprofit
Oh,
arm owns 1% less than Microsoft owns?
of course
And then also
not.
OpenAI employees get 26%, which is nuts. That is a massive number. But again, Microsoft still, 4D Satya, still top ownership percentage.
Yeah, Satya
That's his new name,
never
by the way, if
misses.
you're wondering. It's 4D
4D.
Satya.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should bring on our guest. We have a lot to talk about.
Yes, sir. All right. So, very, very excited to bring on our next guest. I met him very early and then just saw his absolute rise and progression. This is Anton Oika, CEO and co-founder of Lovable. Welcome to the show.
Well,
Hello,
so
Anton.
nice to be here. So nice to be here. Good to meet you again, Matthew and Nick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good to see you. Anton, super excited to talk to you. For the few people watching who don't actually know what Lovable is, which is probably very few, give like the broad strokes. What is Lovable?
And so Lovable introduced this idea that you can go from just an idea to fully working app in just a few minutes by explaining to AI what you want. And then sometimes it just works in the first prompt. Other times you have to kind of iterate and explain to the AI what you need changed for it to fully work and learn the ins and out of what people now refer to as vibe coding, which is this practice of talking to an AI to build full software without looking at code.
And so, obviously, people kind of know Lovable because of your insane ARR growth, but I'm gonna save that for a moment. I originally heard of Lovable before it was called Lovable. I believe, tell us about the open source project that was the impetus of Lovable.
Yeah, sure. So I built this tool when intelligence as an API started coming out with GPT-4. It was clear to me that you could wrap this intelligence into a system that starts behaving even more intelligently and can take actions in the world. So I built an open source tool which developers could use called GPT Engineer, and then I put out a Twitter video like, oh, you can ask for a snake game, and it builds out all the files, and that really captures people's imagination. This was like early 2023,
Yeah.
and then I spent a few days thinking about that success that gone viral, and what struck me when I woke up a few days later was that, hey, look, my entire life, everyone's been coming to me, Matthew, and they've been saying, look, Anton, I need someone to help me make this idea come true. And I know it's very rare to find a good software engineer, so please help me. And I've been wanting to help, but it's like I need to hire those guys as well. So what if you could create a new way to build software and basically reimagine what this human interface should look like. So I biked over to my co-founder's place, Fabian, and I told him, "Hey, Fabian, we need to reimagine how you build software." And that was the start of Lovable. And that came out of that open source project. And then we called the pre-release closed access version of Lovable GPT Engineer app. That was like the extension of that. And then when we felt it was ready for actually being launched, then we said, let's take what we learned and put it and create Lovable, which we launched almost a year ago now, and became the fastest growing company to 100 million ARR to date.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very
Congrats on
impressive.
that.
Let's actually just talk about that for a moment. Matt and I have both been involved in startups for most of our career. I can personally say I haven't seen that kind of ARR growth. Matt, I don't know about you. Walk us through the experience of that. Like, was that just everyone was riding high and celebrating, or was it just focused business as usual?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So look, when before we launched, we had done two things really well, or maybe three things, but we had spent a lot of time thinking about how do you make this AI as smart as possible? And a lot of that is, you could say prompting, but it's more like an agentic chain that makes it as smart as possible, uh, finding the common errors and putting in more like knowledge into this agentic chain so that it doesn't make mistakes. We had enabled not just generating pretty UIs, which it was really good at when we launched it, but also being able to generate like login authentication, storing data. So that's the backend of storing data for your users, and even being able to prompt so that you can add AI capabilities and business logic to the application you're building. And those two things, making it more reliable by tuning the agentic chain and the backend, and then just like when you're building a software product, AI is hard, but just building a good UI, too intuitive UI, like Apple-like UI is hard. Uh, that's the last thing that we always obsess about. And those three things, and us launching and posting on social media, made us starting to grow. And I kind of felt like, wow, maybe this is us growing so fast because there is people curious about trying to use AI. And that was late November last year, but it just kept growing faster and faster and faster. And we were, of course, so super happy about like, okay, people are really caring about what we're doing just by building a good product
Yeah.
and not spending a lot of time on sales or marketing. And but we were always like, okay, what's the next ball? What's the next ball? How do we make this the best possible product for our users? And specifically, we're seeing not people just building product, but there every week I hear about an entrepreneur where they come to me and find me in person, like you saved my company, or they've quit their job and they're building a company making serious money. I know one founder, he made $3 million on the app he built on Lovable. So that's been super rewarding, and that's really like helping the 99% who have not been able to build software before be part of this economy is why we're doing it.
Yeah, and Anton, I have to get serious for a second. You did post, and there's been a lot of discussion about Lovable dying. And so what's it like dying at a 100 million plus ARR?
No, I mean it's really full speed ahead and there are more and more things that we're working on at the same time to improve the product. We now have many of the best like Fortune 500 companies using Lovable as well. And people like when people have built up a lot of positive news, there's always some people that want to take you down and get clicks from that. And I think there was someone that found search traffic data that it's not matching our web traffic at all, but especially not matching our paying customers, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah, I know you posted a great response, like one their graph and then next your paying customer graph, and it was like, a complete hockey stick up to the right.
Opposite directions, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Anton, you mentioned this customer that has created a $3 million business. Is that ARR that he has created?
No, so when that's a crazy story. So this person was not someone that had nothing before. He had built education company in Brazil, and he was obviously good at marketing, and he had existing distribution channels. He decided to create a new premium product line that he, like as a founder, was very excited about, and that it was an education language education product line that he used his existing distribution channels for. And in the first 48 hours, where I think he collected the wait list before, but in the first 48 hours, he made $3 million of grossings.
Yeah, I mean, one of the criticisms of kind of vibe coding platforms is somebody goes on there, they build something, and then it just kind of goes into the void. They don't really promote it after that. Is that, I mean, I assume you're seeing something different, but tell us about like what do those power users who are actually able to create something and then continue to evolve it over time with user feedback using Lovable? What is that story?
I mean, being a successful founder is, of course, more than just building the software. We're seeing users as you can imagine, software engineers are working in all types of businesses and doing all types of things. So, first of all, we're seeing Lovable used by a lot of freelance developers and freelance designers. In designers working in companies, product managers are now building out products and building out proof like first versions of a new product lines with Lovable. As well as I was at Meta in San Francisco, and they were using Lovable to build out their head count planning tools. And I mean, some hundreds of product managers at Microsoft was using it. Uh, and I mean, all of these people can use it to various degrees. You can use it just to like prototype, is this a good idea? And is this a good new interaction pattern for AI, for example. But if you go back to the founders who are successful, I mean, they have to find ways to distribute their software. And that can be either by being very good at marketing, it can be being very good at sales. It could be a combination of the two. And of course, what you hinted at, but when you get your first customers, making sure to obsess about how can you make the product better for them, and always iterating on what are the um, small friction points that you need to fix so that the next user is going to be easier to acquire, the next user is going to be easier to acquire. That's what I'm saying. And I mean, there's a lot of people that build software that could be a company, and then they realize, actually, I don't want to do sales or marketing, and then they go on to the next thing. I don't think that's the end of the world. I mean, it's very, very rewarding to build something and to create. I think it's more worthwhile than spending money on um, like just entertainment. And I mean, just it is just the case that some founders are extremely successful. The majority of startups fail, but some founders are extremely successful. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. There's something fulfilling and rewarding about building something, creating something, whether or not you put it out in the market to be sold or not. One of the things that I think vibe coding has created that's really powerful is this build first culture, especially in big companies, where it's
Yeah.
no longer a spec or a prototype in Figma. It's literally the product, a functional product. And I think that's really powerful in trying to sell your ideas. What other big win?
Nick,
Yeah,
there's
go
this
ahead.
saying, demo, don't memo. Have you heard about it?
No, I love that though. I mean, Aaron Levy from Box talks about this all the time. He's like, I'm literally creating demos just to show off my ideas. And you're right, it's so much more tangible. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, no, that's saying is something a product manager at one of the big tech companies told me. Like, okay, I'm telling everyone stop doing PRDs. Start with a
Right.
very very tangible demo, especially when you're building an AI application, because it's very hard to kind of explain how a new AI application should work. It's only when you really use it that you feel that you get a feeling for like, is this a good user experience or not?
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
I want to talk about something a little different now. You're European, you're building a company in Europe. There's this increasing perception that it is just so difficult to build a company in Europe and like specifically with artificial intelligence. What are you actually seeing on the ground?
Mm. No, I'm seeing quite a few very successful AI companies coming out of Europe. So we have the wonderful also Nordic folks building Synthesia, so that's video generation. We have the leading voice company, 11 Labs, also a European company.
Hugging
Uh,
Face?
Hugging Face. We have the Flux image generation model, the first labs are growing really well coming out of Europe. And one of the reasons for that is that there is so much talent and there is not the same amount of like sheer demand for that talent as in the US. And if you're able to uh, create a strong vision and organize yourself in a smart way with strong technical leadership, which I think is the reason of the success of all of these companies, then you can actually move faster than many of the US companies where the culture is different. I think the European culture of building these companies actually has some advantages. People are there for the long haul. They're not maybe like have already seen a lot of been at successful startups and jump around between companies to the same extent.
And
So
so you,
have you implemented a 996 rule at Lovable?
We have a lot of senior people with families, so I have not implemented the 996 rule, but there it's fun like this is the thing I do filter about a lot is that everyone here really cares about what they're doing, and like being at work 996 and like, oh yeah, I'm here to just because my
Punch the
colleagues,
clock.
my
Yeah.
boss tells me to, is going to typically going to not be at nearly as productive as someone who's there and really cares about like how do I take this the team that I'm working into the next level? How do I like what is the most important thing for for the customers and to improve on the product? That's a much more important thing than if you're there for 6 days a week. And then of course, if people care a lot, many people, also the ones with families, they are. I mean, I have to tell them to go home sometimes because they're working too many hours.
I love it. So, so just to be clear, you're not feeling that friction from regulation, from kind of just the way that the EU thinks about startups and businesses. You're just like full speed ahead. I mean, obviously, right, 0 to 100 million AR very quickly, but you're not
Mm.
feeling any of that.
I'm not feeling any of the regulation. No, I'm someone a leader who like Cursor Anthropic tried to hire. We moved here to Stockholm to work here, and she's like, "Whoa, I never worked with this level of intensity as yeah, as at Lovable." So it is full steam ahead.
And how does it feel to work without air conditioning?
So it's quite cold here in the Nordics, so I don't mind. Uh, it's yeah, you just have to open the windows and then it's fine.
Okay. So I want to again switch topics. So I'm so interested about the folks who are actually building real applications, real businesses on top of Lovable. What are you seeing that is there a certain quality of the actual person building, or is there something about their approach to using Lovable that kind of signals that they're going to be successful? And what advice would you give to somebody who wants to build a business on top of Lovable? What are some of those best practices?
Mm, So the first important part that I would recommend is that to be successful using AI for anything, that there are two determining factors. One is just determination of you um, we going to pull through, wake up every morning and keep working on what you want to achieve. And the second one is a certain amount of curiosity and digging into how does this actually work. If you're building software with Lovable, at some point you're going to be confused. If you're building something complex, you're going to be confused. And then if you just keep asking the AI to learn how to get through this, how to understand, how to not make the same mistake, how to not get stuck, maybe build it again, then you are going to be successful and you're going to be more productive than many experienced software engineers because you're so good at using AI. So some people say that vibe coding doesn't work. It's that is like obviously just because you haven't figured out how to use it most productively. And secondly, on like as being a successful founder, so like that's about building your product, right? But being a successful founder, I think you should be very open to multiple ideas and be determined to find product market fit. That's what you should be determined about, and but be open to many ideas and be structured. Be certain to a certain extent structured in terms of okay, if I let's say I want to find a way to build a product where people can use AI to negotiate better. Like then I think you want to be very structured in realizing who is going to pay for this. Is it going to be a few large customers that are going to be able to have the pockets to pay for this, or is it going to be the mass markets just out on the internet? And then for the one that you think is most promising, find the simplest way to verify your hypothesis that there's someone out there that's going to pay for your product. Talk to them and to really understand why do they not want to pay for my first version, and what can I change so that they will pay for my second version, and really talking to customers a lot. I did work with some people to put out the guide on like do the best founders do. Maybe you're looking for it at my Twitter. I worked with I got some input from Patrick Collison and Imad and other great founders for it.
Very nice. And so it doesn't really seem like the advice you're giving is specific to vibe coding. I mean, this is like if you're going to start a business, it is incredibly hard. You have to be persistent. You have to try a lot of things. You have to find the right customers. And are those customers going to pay? Like these are like not specific to vibe coding. And then all of a sudden, you do have this incredible mechanism, this incredible tool to build your vision much more rapidly than you previously could.
Yeah, that's how I would say it. Like, building a business is hard. Some things become much easier with AI. It also becomes more competitive since everyone has AI.
Yeah. So speaking of competition, how are you thinking about the competitive landscape that Lovable is in? You know, you have the Replets and the Bolts and all these other companies, and they all seem to be doing quite well. How do you create a moat in this kind of environment?
I think what you do is that you build a very strong culture, a very talented team, and then you just keep obsessing over your customers and getting more success for them, and then that compounds and that compounds. So like our product wasn't close to how good it is today at one year ago, and that's just because we keep working on improving it every single day, and I mean, that's how you win. Over time, if you have a great product, you earn customers' trusts, and that builds a brand, and that brand spreads. That's most importantly what I'm thinking about. We do have a lot of partnerships. We just launched a way to prompt your way to an e-commerce store. You just
Oh, with
explain what you
Shopify.
want to
Yeah.
sell, put in you explain what products you want to sell, and then you can then like with one click you have a Shopify backend and a lovable front end. So you have a custom UI for yourself. That's one of those type of partnerships is what we're leaning into doing more. There's so many people coming to us, and we want to work with all of them, starting with the ones that we think are the most um, exciting brands that we'd like to partner with. And that's a way to also improve the value for our customers and for us to I mean build some kind of network effects in terms of everything being integrated with Lovable in an easy way.
Where do you
What,
think? Oh, go
uh,
ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
well, yeah, you know, you mentioned network effects, and I'm curious where else that might exist in the business. You know, I think about this. It's not quite a network effect, but this flywheel that gets created when someone joins Lovable, creates something interesting, shares that on social media, other people see it, join Lovable, create something interesting. You know, where do those kind of growth flywheels exist in the business?
Yeah, so if you go to Lovable, you can see a lot of the most successful or the most loved community projects.
Mm.
And those community projects that's one flywheel where people can also show their portfolio. Previously you had like a website and you put your portfolio on there. Which like Lovable kind of becomes your portfolio for some people. And then we have a large community of ambassadors that are we have appointed ambassadors because they are good at helping other people to be successful in what they're building, in how to use Lovable to its full potential, where to use it in work, how to build a production grade application in Lovable. And I mean, by us just building a good product and making those ambassadors successful, we build some community network effects as
Nice,
well.
nice.
Give
Excellent.
us a little preview, whatever you can, of what the next 12, 18 months of Lovable looks like. What are you most
Oh,
excited about?
roadmap. Yeah.
I mean, I can't even predict the AGIs here in 12 months, so I can't that far
I
into
mean, Sam Altman gave a
future.
very specific date
But
this week, so I think we all have until March 28, right?
for AGI,
Yeah, everyone's updating the roadmaps.
I saw that. Thank you for you.
All right,
No, so
well,
look, we recently made like all every on the roadmap side, we recently made everything natively available in Lovable, which is huge. Like whenever I want to think about the next capabilities in Lovable, I just go to Lovable and I ask for a new way to make our agent work differently. And then I have a Lovable app that with AI and everything in a few minutes that I can try and see like, oh, should we put this into our
having a little audio
main
issue.
product?
There we go.
So that's something we launched recently. If we are selecting some of the most exciting brands to partner with right now, and then what we will be announcing is some of those integrations, so that like you can just go to Lovable for anything you want to build, even in a large business. We have, as I mentioned, a lot of Fortune 500 companies using Lovable, and they want to have their Lovable apps connect to everything else in their like software stack. For example, their way of doing design. For example, their way of doing design.
All right.
And then obviously you should be able to build more things, mobile apps, agents, and um, exactly how that's going to look is like there's a new type of software. Now to date we've been able to let people build uh, existing type of software. Now we're enabling people to build new types of software. What's next? And we have to be the ones that drive that future forward.
Amazing. Anton, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to check it out, Lovable, go build something, go build a business, build your idea. Super easy. Anton, congrats on all the success. I hope you continue to grow, and thank you so much.
Thank you both. Thank you, Matthew. Keep creating great content.
Thanks a lot. All right, see you next time. Okay.
What a treat.
The famous Mark Twain quote comes to mind. The reports of my death are greatly exaggerated, and I love that he just owned it on Twitter. Just straight, that chart that showed, hey, Lovable is dying, and then he's like, well, actually, look at this growth, and yeah, I just love that. I think, we have a few more minutes, Nick. I'd love to cover the earnings week. This was like a
Oh
big
yeah.
week as people were looking at AI and the AI bubble. I know we started talking about that earlier. I'd love to finish that conversation.
Let's bring that up. Yeah, Alex, you can share my screen here.
Yeah, so this was A16Z conference, some event that they had this week. And Gavin Baker, very famous investor, this is what I was talking about earlier. At the peak of the dot-com bubble, 97% of the fiber that was laid was dark. 97%. So they just had this massive infrastructure build out and there was no demand there.
That's
Contrast that
unbelievable.
today.
Yeah,
Say again?
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, 97%, which, obviously it worked out in the end, but the timelines were a lot different. But contrast that to today, and essentially every single GPU that gets deployed gets used instantly. So that's just one signal that maybe we're not quite in the AI bubble that seems to be kind of going around the media right now.
Yeah,
Not
agreed.
this media.
No,
That
not this
media.
media.
Yeah.
No dark GPUs, exactly.
Well, let's look at the earnings
Um,
though.
yeah, so we have Google here, just posted Q3 earnings. We delivered our first ever $100 billion quarter, driven by double-digit growth across every major part of our business. 5 years ago, our quarterly revenue was at 50 billion. So our full stack approach to AI is driving real momentum, and we're shipping at speed. And they really are shipping at speed. They're shipping like a startup. It's incredible how many launches Google is putting out to the world every single week.
Yeah, and by the way, this has been said for a while now. Google, the best economic engine ever created, right? Just absolutely printing bales of cash.
Cash.
And yeah, thanks for moving that around, Alex. And just that was the AdSense business. And now we have uh, Gemini, we have their inference and kind of the cloud business, and 100 billion in a single quarter, $100 billion in revenue in a single quarter. Absolutely nuts. 7 billion tokens per minute. 7 billion tokens per minute. I can't get over some of these numbers. 650 monthly active users for Gemini. 34% revenue year over year for Google Cloud, and 300 million paid subscriptions across Google One and YouTube. It's interesting that they combine those, by the way. And by the way, you need to get a premium YouTube subscription. If you use YouTube at all, you are missing out by watching all of those ads. YouTube Premium is just such a fantastic, no-brainer product.
Curious what their revenue per user is. But the big question for Google is, can they convert their ad business, the cash cow, into another cash cow, but with a AI focus? And if you look at these paid subscriptions, I imagine that a lot of those are what, in the $5, $6, $7 range. Like those are not premium subscriptions.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they make this transition, right?
Yeah, I think there's a couple other interesting things here. One, obviously, they have just the most incredible, massive distribution ever. So when they launch something, they automatically get it into the hands of every user they possibly can. So just built-in distribution. Meta has kind of that same function. They're able to launch something and get it into everybody's hands because of their incredible distribution channels. And so like let's actually do some comparisons here. Gemini, 650 monthly, excuse me, million monthly active users. And then let's talk about ChatGPT. Zero distribution channel prior to what it is today. And they're at 800 million weekly active users. So ChatGPT still is the brand name AI for most people. And it's actually interesting to think about. So with no built-in prior distribution channels, they were able to grow to 800 million. That is that first mover advantage at work right there. They are the brand name. They are the verb, right? It's like instead of Google it, you're going to ChatGPT it. But not taking anything away from Google, but just kind of highlighting how impressive OpenAI's trajectory has been.
Of course. Yeah, it really has been incredible. By the way, I pulled up this revenue per user, and it's estimated at $460 per year. And a lot of that is driven by their ads business.
Is that an average user, a US user?
Average Google user. And they factor in how much you're making, how much they're profiting off of ads being displayed to those users. That's a part of the calculation.
Say the number one more time, Nick.
$460.
$460 average. Is that lifetime?
Per year. But
that is insane.
Yes. I mean, there are billions and billions and billions of Google searches every day, right? And so, but my point is that is driven by ad revenue, largely. And so can they translate that? Can they maintain that revenue per user when they become AI first?
Right. And of course, they're putting like the AI summaries in chat. The AI summaries don't quite have monetization yet. Gemini doesn't quite have monetization other than, paying directly, which I'm personally happy to do. But for a lot of the world, even $8, $10 a month is not possible. And so the ad-driven business in AI seems inevitable.
Right.
I hope it's like a more delicate balance than what we've seen previously where, for Facebook, there was no paid option. You're going to see ads and there's nothing you can do about it. Similar to Google search. I want, just give us the option. Let me pay a little bit and not see any ads.
Talking to Alex Sherman from Bluefish last week, maybe this is the time when ads actually become, I won't say delightful, but very relevant enough to be useful. Yeah. And with the data that they have on us, it's going to be so personalized that maybe it actually is a good experience. We shall see.
So this wasn't the only earnings this week. Let's take a look at a couple others to kind of paint the picture of AI bubble or not.
So here we have Meta tops revenue forecast, but earnings miss on 15.9 billion tax charge.
One time tax charge.
Yeah. And shares plunged 11%. So massive drop. A lot of people are a lot of doomers are calling this it doesn't look good for Meta, but really what this is accounting. They're not going to see those big tax bills next quarter, so expect them to pop again.
Yeah, revenue up, and although after hours plunged 11%, when it finally opened, it kind of balanced that down like 2.8%. So I think the market understands what's happening. This is revenue's up. I think that's the highlight there.
And then, of course, we have Amazon, who announced a very large layoff.
Can you move the screen a little bit? Oh, yeah.
No.
Let's look at this because I love this image of Jeff Bezos.
I mean, the Patagucci, the aviators, this is classic
the
Bezos.
Guns, look at that.
The guns, indeed. He's got some creatine flowing through those. So EPS of $1.95 beating expectations, which were $1.57. I think they're the behemoth here. Like they're just crushing here. Pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I'm looking a lot of it came from the growth of the AWS business. 20%, AWS grew 20%, $33 billion, its fastest pace of growth since 2022. Obviously, AWS serves a lot of purposes, but let's be honest here, we're talking about inference. Like we're talking about AI growth, and they have their own chips. They just launched their brand new data center that has all of their Trainium chips, I believe it is. So like all
Yep.
custom Amazon built chips. And yeah, they're just firing on all cylinders. I did get to interview Matt Garman, the CEO, a few months ago, and that was a pleasure. So he really spoke to like how invested they are in their own chips, but not only their own chips. They're like, we'll serve anybody. Like, come
Sure.
on, AMD, come on, NVIDIA. Just we want to serve the best models at the cheapest price.
Yeah, he's a smooth operator, that guy. But yeah, 20% year over year revenue growth. And I think analysts had them at 3.24 billion. Yeah, and you said 33 billion in revenue. Not only that, all of those numbers are impressive. AWS remains their biggest profit center, accounting for 60% of the company's total operating income.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. And maybe we're going to see that the margin there competed out over the next few years. I mean, the kind of physical goods delivery business is obviously incredible and massive, but the margins are razor thin, right? His famous line, "Your margins are my opportunity." So they're just operating on razor thin margins at immense scale, but nothing compares to just serving ones and zeros, right? It's just a different type of business, and that's their profit center.
So I know we're coming up on time here.
Yeah.
One final story, and then we can come to a close. CEOs of NVIDIA, Samsung, and Hyundai meet and have a shot. You know the future is being negotiated. The big question here, what was the shot?
Yeah. I think were they in South Korea?
Oh, unsure.
I think they are. Yeah, maybe Shoju, I think it's pronounced Soju.
Sure.
Maybe
It
it's
looks
that.
sizable. That's like a half a glass.
Yeah, Jensen is living his best life right now. Like just all the cool stuff he's doing and delivering the DGX Sparks by hand and he's like dropping into interviews randomly. I've just seen him like, "Hey, I want to talk about this too." And he'll just kind of like bombard somebody's interview and jump on in and he seems like a cool guy. I definitely would want to have a drink with him.
Absolutely. My bet is Jose Cuervo. I think they went bottom shelf on this one just to
Oh
have some
dang.
fun,
Oh
spice it
dang,
up.
that's hard.
Yeah.
All right, well, Nick, this has been another great show. Thank you for co-hosting with me. That is our show. I want to thank our guests, Lynn Chow, CEO of Fireworks, Raza Martin, CEO of Hux, Anton Oika, CEO of Lovable. We'll drop all the links in the chat. Nick, again, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter. Yes, most importantly, we changed our Twitter handle. We actually used the handle
Yes.
Marketplace and we got a non-awkward Twitter handle. We have @ForwardFuture.
Big
That's
time.
it. Can you imagine?
Yep.
So really appreciate that. Check out our newsletter, Forward Future AI, and we will see you next time.